Says we're live.
All right. Welcome to the May 15th, 2024 meeting of the Lyman Planning Board. This meeting will now come to order. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all the exhibits that are offered. If the board goes into executive session, the reason for doing so shall be stated. Please notify the chair if you are having any difficulty seeing or hearing. This meeting is being recorded for YouTube. In each instance, the burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the provisions of the applicable ordinance or ordinances. After the board votes on the merits of each project, it will prepare a written opinion, which will be forwarded within 7 days. The board works from a prepared agenda and will be considering this meeting's items in the following order. After our roll call, Judy Morin and Steve Joyce, the review of the site walk of number 1 South Waterboro Road, subdivision performance guarantee, review the proposed revised language to that. Carrie Ann Johnson, Encompass Joy LLC, proposed changes to the property of formerly Ashley's Restaurant. Harper Residential Subdivision, discussing with the applicant the requirement for roads in a subdivision. We'll set the agenda for the next meeting, go over the minutes, and go over any old business. Please join with me for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Long may she wave.
Thank you. Bill, starting with you, roll call, please.
Bill Single, 8 Single Lane.
Kelly Demers, 10 Partridge Way.
Joe Wagner, 26 Day Road.
Cecile Dupuy, 53 Chapel Shores Road.
Kevin Baird, 64 Bucket Pond Road.
And finally, Don Ernest, 33 Murphy's Way.
All right, first on our agenda for this evening is just reviewing the site walk notes from last Saturday. That's number 1 South Waterboro Road. Church right behind us here. And in Don's comments, we toured the buildings. Applicant explained the proposed uses of the building. They expect to have a sign up for classes. They may have a lecture series and meetings. Again, they're proposing using the space at the church and the annex for yoga, Pilates, other types of classes along those lines. And so for the public hearing on that at our next meeting, first meeting in June, and
That's on the 5th.
that's on the, thank you.
Were they supposed to come up with a couple of things with their application when you went through the checklist last time?
Is there, let's see here. I think there was some information with respect to the septic system. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
I know that was observation made at the site walk as well.
There's no documentation.
That's the only thing that I took note of in terms of additional information. Anyone else?
No, I think one thing which I didn't put on the sidewalk notes, maybe I should have, is that I guess this would be a code issue. It looked like the electrical, the wires that come in from the street that provide electrical power went directly through a tree. I mean, not directly through a tree, but through the tree branches. So that would be an issue, I guess, if Marcel took a look at it. But I don't think that's under the planning board's purview directly. But
Right.
it was, just a case where it looked like the tree had grown up around those wires. But there's quite a bit of work to be done on in that property too. But the prospective owner's a contractor.
Yep.
And he looks like he's very willing to get after it, which sounds good. I'm glad to see that property hopefully go to productive use for the town and get a nice fat tax incentive. So,
Church.
Cecile?
Yeah,
a church.
was item number 4 on the list with the perimeter survey.
Mhm.
What we received was just a portion of it.
Yeah, we can get
Mhm.
the full deal.
That's right.
We need to see more, I believe. There's,
The stamp.
Right, the stamp.
Right, he
And
said
it has
he
to
had,
show more north, the graphic scale, corners of the parcel, date of survey, and total acreage.
he said he had the whole thing, he just presented us this portion,
Right,
which is what he thought we needed, and was like, no, we need
need
the
the whole
entire
thing.
survey, everything at the scale.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
Once it goes through the planning board, I'm assuming that they have to get permits for
Yes.
doing work. So that's gonna be inspected and everything like that.
Exactly.
Let's see, first one was a roughed in, the plumbing there, but from what I recall, no commode, no,
Yeah.
wash basin or anything like that, so it would have to be installed.
Right.
Handrails or walls.
That's
That's the
right.
basement.
Yes, it is one steep drop at one location.
That'll all be addressed by code. Just, I
Mhm.
think we are only concerned with the use and its feasibility according
Exactly,
to
so.
the rules that we have to deal with.
And as you alluded to, Kelly, the owners do want to offer the use of the church proper for a denomination and congregation that want to
Yep.
to use it.
That, and also I think that they want to offer the space for the historical society if
That's
they
right.
so choose.
Well, that's nice.
Concerning the septic system, when that's a requirement that we
Yep.
have a record of the existing septic system and any potential future areas that would be.
Mhm.
And I don't know, the owner said that there were no records,
I found nothing.
Nothing.
but there must be something somewhere. It had to have been pumped out at some point because we don't have public sewerage.
Yeah, but all the pumping is gonna do is say we pump 500 or 1,000 gallons. It's not gonna have the size of the tank, the capacity, the size of the leach field.
So what does one do when they buy a property?
So we wouldn't have those records anyway. That
Well,
would
they
be
should
the
be in
owners.
town hall unless.
No,
Unless they
not
were.
on, if it was pumped out.
No, not that, but I mean,
Yeah.
there should be a record.
Well,
of
I
the
realize the
septic.
other side of it, yes,
Mm.
should be,
Yeah.
but
And-
should is not always.
Yes, and
So
I went
what-
onto the state website and I think I went back, was it 1980, 1975?
75, it goes back.
75.
I found nothing.
And I couldn't find anything for HHE 200.
Mm.
Mm.
What do we do in
So-
that case? Do we require a waiver or?
Well, I'd like to know that the septic system has a capacity to accommodate.
Yeah, whether
the
it-
Well,
uses.
these companies that pump usually can go out, they've got a camera, they can scope the system out, they can tell you what size it is, the whole deal. I just don't know what our rights are to ask for it.
Yeah.
Well,
So well, I guess the owner would be responsible to give that to us.
I would think so, because indeed,
One other question or a point, I mean, to be discussed when the applicant's here is that, what use we would, if everything goes through, what use we would consider this as. I mean, church, parish house, rectory, and convents are under site review, under residential, which is, this is residential. But then it gets a little dicey. There's professional office, which has site review, and things like, functional hall is not permitted. Personal service business, which might be possibly site review. So we'd have to consider, what, if somebody just goes through and write a notice of decision, we should decide what we're going to categorize this under, because it doesn't exactly fit in. I mean, it fits in under church, but they're gonna do other things too. They want-
Right, that's not the main purpose.
Yoga, Pilates.
Yep.
Some type of counseling. I
Mhm.
think I got that wrong.
Wellness.
Aerobics and
Yeah,
health and wellness.
anyway, I'm just pointing, I mean,
Yeah.
you just have to figure out, hopefully that we can that there's an applicable site use that fits in.
Well, it seems like personal service business may fill the bill there.
Yeah, possibly.
Take a
Anyhow.
Look at the definition there.
Personal service,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, that could
Business
be.
that offers a professional service such as, but not limited to, barbers, hairdressers, beauticians, masseuses, and tanning salons.
That sounds about,
Yeah,
would fit into that.
Yeah, anyway,
but not limited to.
so anyhow, we'll see. Maybe it could come under several categories, possibly.
So it seems so that the applicant is well prepared for the public hearing. Again, the site plan that does have the surveyor's stamp on it, more elaborate version of that. And you have to address as best as they can the septic system issue. And Bill makes a very good suggestion that one thing that can be done is then requiring the service to come in and do the investigation.
I had a note on my check sheet that you wanted the measurements for the whole parking area
Mhm.
and the parking spaces themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I had noted that.
Yes, that's right, parking spaces.
Joe, was anybody gonna be living there?
No,
No? Okay.
it's not an issue. Okay. Anything else? Folks on this? Okay, so we'll set to see them next meeting, 5:30 on June 5th. Okay, next on the agenda, you okay?
Yep.
Let's see, review the proposed revision to the subdivision performance guarantee. Kevin has done a great deal of work on this, and we've got a public hearing on this suggestion, also scheduled for June 5th. And the proposal mainly is to offer other alternatives to put up the performance guarantee for a subdivision. Right now, it is merely limited to a certified check made payable to the town that would be placed in a escrow account. If I may, I'll just read off the suggested change. At the town's discretion, the performance guarantee shall be a certified check payable to the town of Lyman and deposited into an interest-bearing escrow account in the name of the town for this project. A performance bond running to the town or an irrevocable letter of credit in a form and from an issuer acceptable to the town treasurer. No permits shall be issued or construction or site work begun until the performance guarantee has been fully approved by the town treasurer. And so far as I can recollect, this has been presented to the town treasurer for feedback. And Jeanette suggested that the proposed language be prefaced with "at the town's discretion."
At the town's discussion, okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, originally I was questioning the irrevocable letter of credit, but as Kevin found this in several other town municipalities, particularly I think it was Gorham or Westbrook, which is the fastest growing town in the state. I think that they have a better idea of what they're doing than we do. So, just good job, Kevin.
Yes. Any further discussion here? Again, it's on the agenda for the next meeting to get the public's comment on this proposal. Again, it's something that we do not have to get town approval for at the town meeting because the subdivision regulations are the product of the planning board. That was confirmed by a notice from MMA that our town manager acquired for us. All right, Moving on, Carrie Ann Johnson. Hi. Want to make a couple changes to what was Ashley's Restaurant?
Yes.
Yeah. Please come forward and discuss what you have in mind.
So when I looked at the property initially, I looked at the building itself to be seating for the public and the restroom usage as far as the cafe on the main road. The rear commercial building would be either my shop for me to make my art and wares that I wanted to sell. I wanted to have a couple food trucks on the lot over by the small commercial building. The residential household I would rent. I would just simply rent to a person and not as a short-term rental because there's too many people that need housing. So I wanted to put a tenant in there full-time. I've had a couple of food truck people come forward that are interested in actually renting that house and also having their truck on the lot, if I'm allowed to have food trucks on the lot. So this has become quite a interesting situation for me, which I didn't learn any of this until after I purchased the property, but the town line goes through the property and the cafe is Arundel and the two rear buildings, I guess, are Lyman. I have since been over to speak with Jim, the CEO of Arundel, and at first I needed to prove that the cafe was in fact a cafe and pumped food out of it within the last 2 years in order for it to even remain a cafe, because it's not grandfathered any longer. They, in the last 2 years, have changed the zoning and they've made that a rural zone in front of that commercial multi-use property. It is considered commercial for Lyman, that stretch of road.
Right.
Arundel is calling it rural. So if I don't run it as a cafe, which I did, so let me backtrack. I did my history. Thankfully, the ladies at M People Credit Union next door had receipts, went back a year into their bank accounts, and I could print off that they bought food from the Down Home Cafe. So I did prove that it was a cafe. Jim is telling me that it has to be run as a cafe. I cannot, there's very little, like other misuses, there's not much I can do with the building, I guess, because of the setbacks and it becoming a rural zone. Really frustrating.
Just from the alignment perspective, we were there some years ago when the previous owner wanted to open up a meadery.
Correct.
And
I bought that from them.
I don't think it ever got off the ground.
No.
It had been, the restaurant portion had been reopened, but the hours I always found kind of.
Were they not open much or?
It was kind of odd. We
Basically, yeah, breakfast till like early lunch.
Noon or 2 or whenever they
Yeah,
felt like closing the
yeah,
door? Yeah, that doesn't work well for the public, but my intentions were not initially, so I didn't buy a turnkey cafe. They stripped equipment out of that. I need to put quite a bit of money into this. It was approved and I have the sign off from Jim and the health inspector for the Canadian couple that did run it as the Down Home Cafe. But because of what is absent there, I am not prepared to just run a cafe. So I need to put money into this cafe if I'm going to run it as a cafe, which was not my intention. I'm not opposed to, I am a cook and do enjoy that. That's why I'm surrounding myself by this foodie situation. But it would be a while before I could get that ready for that. One of the uses that he presented to me under their guidelines, it does say public facility. And I don't know what that means to you folks. But a public facility, could that not just be seating and bathrooms, which is what I'd like to offer to folks that come to eat at the park. I plan on having nice seating, colorful umbrellas and picnic tables and making it a very family-friendly parking lot. I've already started putting money into cleaning up that lot, what was behind that house. The house is about to be painted nice trees, fencing, reclaim the parking lot and make it look appealing.
Well, I think from the line perspective, our jurisdiction is only that portion of your
Right.
that is in our town.
Right.
And
I don't know.
The house and the adjacent building that was supposed to be the meadery.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's outside of, I think, our purview.
For the
use of
cafe.
The cafe.
I don't know if where they've put the town line signs, if that truly is the town line. So evidently nobody can find a survey on the town line.
We had one for that one
We
because
must
we
have
wanted
one.
to know.
If you do, I'd love to see it. I've looked, I've gone to down to the Alfred deeds. I've gone back to previous owners and done my homework, and there's nothing mentioning it. Property lines are mentioned in pins, not the town line, because there's a possibility the town line goes through the cafe.
Yeah, to the best of my recollection, it slants through the parcel in such a way that, again, the metery building and the house Lyman,
Mhm.
and I believe, if I recall correctly, the entirety of the Ashley's was in Arundel.
Mhm.
And Julie, would it be possible, from who did you purchase it? Who is the applicant
What
who
was,
wanted? to-
Orsted LLC.
Oh, Orsted, yeah, I remember
Yeah.
the name.
Okay. And to my recollection, in the paperwork there was the.
They never did a
It was very
survey.
clear that there was
Nobody's
a
wanted to
separation.
spend the money on a survey.
Well, someone may have to.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
And even though I may be told not what I want to hear, I prefer it all to be Lyman. But
I mean, it would seem, there's got to be, there has to be a survey
there's a
somewhere on
deed.
record. I mean,
Mhm.
I've spoken to the DOT too. I mean, because it's interesting enough, within the last month, the brand new entering the town line of Lyman sign just went up on the very farthest point and corner of the property. So I asked who did that and who decides, like, this is the point of where it goes. And it is just about across from the entering the town of Arundel if you are heading back towards Biddeford. And it may be super close in where it is. So what I end up doing with the cafe, I don't know. I'll deal with Arundel. In the meantime, I don't want to invest too much more money into the lot itself unless I know I can have food trucks there.
So you're kind of looking like Cognitiv's after hours.
Yes, but a smaller scale.
Yeah.
But really just for lunches. I don't plan on any late nights. Not late nights. I'm sorry?
tacos.
Oh, with tacos for lunch. I mean, if they wanted to do evenings, they could. As far as noise too, variance, I planned on having 2 cement pads poured in front of that little commercial building, which I've been quoted for, and having electrical added. So they've got added outlets. It wouldn't be generator run trucks for noise. Although the neighbor's considerably far away.
So Arundel says you can use it as a cafe.
Correct.
only.
That's
Do you
right.
know what the minimal use would be as a cafe?
I don't know if just putting a coffee maker on the
I would-
counter
I
or
would
serving
ask.
muffins in a
I would
donut.
a- I
would work.
ask. I think it's work. Only, not that that would be a primary thing, but at least it helps you keep that designation so you don't lose it.
Right.
And I think that would be wise.
I'm not
to hang
opposed to
on
running it as a luncheon, a daily special, keeping it simplified, even.
I would
He-
ask him, what's the minimum to keep it as a
Well,
cafe?
he used 2 words, cafe and restaurant. And he, it sounded fairly clear that he's like, if I were to come in with my wife and children, that I, would sit down, and I didn't plan on having staff and having to serve people like that in that capacity.
I'd ask for it in writing.
You'd have to have a permit
Yeah,
from the
that's-
state for
that's-
food and all of that, right? That,
Oh yeah, the kitchen would have to be re-inspected by the
Right,
health
yeah.
inspector.
And have to
Like-
be brought up to code. That's in a
commercial
run.
kitchen,
Yeah.
That's not our
Yeah.
purview.
Yeah, all I was just saying,
Oh, right,
something to
continuity.
keep it
right?
so it you wouldn't lose
A
that
cafe, I think, can be many,
designation.
many things.
Yes.
Well, I think I'd want to find out what they expect it to be so that you could at least say, this is the minimum to hang on to it.
Right.
Yeah, hot dog steamer.
Just a
and coffee
suggestion.
pot.
The only thing I have is deeds and the septic. There's a septic for this one, which shows the Lyman Arundel line. The restaurant's over here and the other 2 buildings are over here in Lyman.
There should be a whole site plan packet for that. That was a considerable,
Yeah, I know they added on to that
During the
septic.
sale, typically they do a Class C survey.
right?
There's a line here which seems to go right through the restaurant.
What would happen in that instance if there were a survey done and the line goes through the cafe? How would you two towns come together with that
We would have to.
and work with one another?
We would do just that.
And we've done that before, with the other towns, they join meetings and
Mhm.
I don't remember the house,
Yeah, recessed to the back.
because we were just concerned with the metering.
That's right.
Metering
Mhm.
and the cafe was Arundel, so we didn't deal with that at
Yeah.
all.
Right.
I wish I could say that the demarcation between one town and another was nice and clear, but as we found with, I think, Mr. Martin's project down in the southern portion of the town, the dividing line between Alfred and Lyman was something that took some time for them to discern.
Hmm.
Not very helpful, I'm sorry, but
No, that's okay. I appreciate
With the tax
any
rate and
information. The smaller commercial building that Orsted LLC wanted to make a meadery, I also had considered, if not my shop for my wares, to be a small, I don't want to say brewery, but to have craft beer and wine to go with the food trucks, to offer that as well. The building's a really cool little space.
well, Cecile, to your point, would the tax map of that parcel that is in Lyman provide some dimensions?
They were paying taxes to both towns, so there has to be some division of the acreage
Mhm.
that you're taxed with.
Mhm.
May
You
not show a
have to
line, but
ask
it'll show you
Lori
an
that,
area.
right?
Mm.
Oh, the legal description should have the waypoints.
There's a deed that has, go northwesterly or whatever, but
Sure.
you have to find the pins and all.
Mhm.
It would sound to me like you need a survey.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get away with that one.
Right.
Not get away with, but I mean, it sounds like you're gonna have to be able to show what part is in Lyman and what part is in.
There's a lot of advantage to having that too.
Yeah, and then
Just
having
to
it
know
recorded.
what's yours.
Oh, even, yeah, and perhaps if I need to turn around and sell it for the next person. I agree. And I can't just use the cafe to sell my wares or my art, my things that I create, because I was told I had to live in it. Then you have to live there if you're going to sell your things. I'm like, boy.
Oh, wow.
So now I've purchased a property that I'm not pulling in any revenue still yet from, that I'm paying for.
But again, maybe contacting Lori, our assessor. Map 12, lot 81, I think is the designation.
18-1.
18-1?
Yeah.
That should be 18-8. Well, on the application it says 8.
File says 18.
18 it is then.
Yeah.
So Encompass LLC, that's my LLC, Encompass Joy.
Mhm.
And the first DBA was going to be called Truck to Table. And that was the signage I would have put up for the trucks. Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
Could I,
Yeah, I think it would be fun.
can I also just say, I don't know if you've looked at our zoning ordinance or not, but somehow you gotta figure out what, this is in the commercial/residential district. So I would suggest that you might want to look and figure out what function you want to apply under. In other words, is this, what kind of, how would we,
Well, with the fast food trucks, that would kind of fit restaurant fast food.
well, there's a couple of possibilities. I mean, there's several categories. So
Mm-hmm.
all I'm saying is you might want to take a look at this and just see
Yeah.
what you think would serve your needs best, especially if you might want to expand your uses in the future. In
Mhm.
other words, it's better, if possible, it's better to say, okay, here's what my vision is. Maybe I'm only going to do this part now, but get approval for the whole, all the uses you would like to do. And even if you may not do them for a while.
Right.
Have it approved, you wouldn't have to come back and see the planning board.
Well, I think I'd like to move forward that way.
I mean, but.
Definitely.
so
I expected this to kind of evolve, be an evolving process.
But it is sort of up to the applicant to say, here's
Well-
what I want to do. And then,
It's definitely food and beverage.
okay, but I'm saying someone's got to sit down and say, okay, here's what I want to do. And then think about whether you might want to add some other things and sort of list out your activities so that it can be categorized properly, hopefully approved under those categories. And then they would, if you did just do those in, say, a little bit in the future here, you'd be covered. Wouldn't have to be coming back and spending your time and money to go back to the planning board.
And what you could do is, the zoning ordinance is on the town's website. You look through the land use table to see what categories, what you have in mind would fit. Cecile, you're doing a little checking out on the map there?
Oh, yeah, I found the tax map, there's no dimensions.
Okay, so much for that. Sorry.
And
That's
Google
okay.
shows the
Thanks for
town
looking.
to the parking lot,
Do the parking lot.
between the cafe and the rear.
Mhm.
So this would be, your food would be seasonal, right? You wouldn't be doing them in the wintertime?
I'd go as long as possible, actually.
Okay.
I know that I think Congdon's is probably just opening, but I think they close down. Things really taper off in September for them. But that's also a very touristy area, which is why it tapers off. And as you guys know, 111 is like, I'm sorry, it's busy all day, every year, all year. So I think going into the fall would be lovely. And if it's doable to do even some winter work, why not?
I think Bill's suggestion is a very, very good one. See exactly what their definition of cafe is over in Arundel and see how you can meet that definition.
Well, even if I can't offer the seating in the cafe, I could still offer outside seating and move forward with my food truck portion of the plan.
So almost like a catering, you're not preparing the food.
Well, it would have to be prepared on site for a restaurant fast food. Any type of restaurant, it per us has to be on
It
site.
has to be on site,
But
right?
again, it's
Right.
not on our property.
Well, if she's doing the food trucks.
In the parking lot, sure.
Yeah, and
So most food trucks, some are considered commercial kitchens themselves. They're licensed as commercial kitchens,
Yeah.
depending on the fire suppress system, things, whatnot they have in it. The ones that are not commercial kitchens go to commissary kitchens like Fork Lab, and they prepare their food. And then that's why they typically move around spot to spot. I'm looking for some people that might want to just anchor right down, just like the few trucks that are across from Bentley's in that small little parking lot.
Mhm.
So have we helped you any? Probably not. Have we helped you any? Probably not.
I don't know because I'm not sure what my next step needs to be. I'm going by the guidance of you guys. I know what I want to do, but I need to be told I can do it.
You've got to decide, in my opinion, that is, you have to decide what you want to do and see, it's up to the applicant to say, here's what I want to do, and sort of list it all out. And then I assume the planning board will try to, or the code enforcement system would try to help you figure out what category it fit under, but it's up to the applicant to
I
ask.
thought I filled something out to go to this evening. Did I not? Did I have more paperwork I didn't bring?
Like
Request.
an inquiry
Inquiry form.
request?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what we're doing.
Oh, I actually had more. I had filled out something else and had my business plan too, but perhaps I didn't. I just came from Rangeley. I apologize.
Yeah, but
I'm
not
selling a
trying to give you hard-
property up there. I'm like,
I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but
No.
it is up to the applicant to say, okay, here's my vision, here's what I want to do.
mhm.
And, it's nice to have all ideas, but someone has to decide, which is you, saying, okay, here's what I want to apply for. And then we'll try to fit it into the proper category so you can get approval for that. If luckily it's in the commercial zone for us. So I would think most of the possible uses that you're asking for would be allowed.
So you just need the paperwork with me requesting that application to do this.
Yes.
I guess that's a yes.
Yes.
come
An
before us
application
and
was
say,
done.
I want to have food trucks, I want to sell, make and sell arts and crafts, I want to, whatever, spell out what you want to do, present, then we go down through the list. Yeah, okay, it fits under this category of restaurant to fast food. It fits under, not professional services, but a lot of things are, you're lucky you're in commercial.
Yeah. there's
Yeah.
not
Right.
enough
Most of the things are
That's
allowed in
almost
commercial
everything's allowed there.
or site plan review.
Artisanal food and or beverage facility with that,
Yeah,
that
that's
might be a
pretty-
category for your wares you said? These are your art wares or?
And that's an evolving thing. That was thinking if I got this off the ground and the trucks are successful and people are coming, then yes, I would implement that. It would behoove me to have my stuff shown. And I did
So-
start to fill that stuff out, but I don't think I filled it all out.
What seems more critical right now is getting things ironed out with Arundel. As you just described before, their rezoning in rural might be problematic for you, and some of the negotiation there.
Well, where that's another town, that doesn't necessarily have to be tied into what I'm doing in Lyman.
Right.
But you're gonna have to have a survey, I think. I mean, I don't know. I don't see how you can do this without a survey.
Well, not if the trucks are on the Lyman property.
No, I know, but how do you, right now, it sounds like you're not exactly sure what's in Lyman, what's in,
Well, I'm positive the two rear buildings are in Lyman.
okay, but I'm,
Yeah,
gotta be some documentation.
just the cafe was questionable.
So
Yeah.
the suggestion was find out what the minimum for a cafe is to protect your use of that building. That's what we were saying as far as the Arundel side goes. Doesn't affect the Lyman side, but it could affect you if, let's say you wait 8 months and they say you're a month past the 2 years, you can't use it for that anymore. So we're saying, find out what you have to do to keep that designation, even at a minimal rate, to continue it on.
Mm-hmm,
That way it protects your investment
mm-hmm,
going forward. That's all we were suggesting on that.
right. And as far as the Lyman side, I just need to submit this paperwork.
Yep. Asking for the particular category to fit it under and what you're going to do, and then we go forward with it.
And how long does that typically take, that process?
No more than 10 years. No.
I've got people lined up to do parking lot work. I really don't want to put a lot of money into this until I know I can do this.
Say that you come back next meeting with the application. We set up a site walk, which would be sometime later in June. I think the earliest will be to hold a public hearing on it would be, I think, the first meeting in July. Does that sound?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
So we're talking about probably bump it to July 10th. More on that in terms of the dates in a bit. Public hearing and right afterwards on the schedule, discuss the application in a formal manner. So to try to answer your question, mid-July.
One thing to take into consideration is what you propose. Keep in mind how much traffic it could potentially generate, and would your proposed use require us to require you to have a traffic study? If you're having something that is putting 10 to 15, or hopefully not 10 to 15 cars an hour onto 111, that's great. But if you're proposing 300 vehicles an hour
No.
coming in and out of that parking lot, that could create an issue.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I've heard that that Down Home Cafe had a full parking lot quite often, that they did a nice job. Yeah, I never got to experience either restaurant, so.
Actually, it's a good place for breakfast.
One other point, question. How about DOT? I was thinking, since it's on 111, there's already existing curb cuts, if you want to call that, openings onto 111. I'm assuming, which may be a wrong assumption, that you're not trying to create any new additional accesses to 111
No,
from that property.
no,
But the last,
nothing new.
The last activity DOT had over there, to my recollection, was putting in that guardrail,
Yeah,
which I thought was, way too close to the entrance, but they did put that in there and
At the far left corner from looking at 111 from the property,
There's a guardrail, I believe, right in front of the.
between us and M People, the credit union. It's the only
No,
guardrail I can,
Between yourself and, isn't there a guardrail there between the entrance to what was Ashley's and 111 itself?
no,
No,
nothing.
there was one.
oh, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. There was one there by the credit union, I know,
Yeah, on the corner.
on that little, little ravine there, little area there. There's one there.
Well, back when it was Ashley's, the owners there were concerned about
Oh.
traffic whizzing by on 111 and nothing between that traffic and their front door.
Right, like no bollards, no anything.
And I do recollect that the DOT did put something in there.
Oh, yeah.
There were
please-
bollards installed
Okay.
behind, like an arc behind the restaurant. Perhaps that's what you're referring to that was added.
Okay, I have to take a look at this. What I recall actually, obviously, is not there. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else, ladies and gentlemen?
So back to the DOT.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying, is that an issue, or not? Because we don't, I mean, normally the planning board doesn't deal with the DOT. I mean, we did have in the case of another property further down 111 where the DOT put some conditions on, and the owner is supposed to expand the size of 111 actually for turning lanes.
Hmm.
And those requirements came from the DOT, but, wasn't anything that we initiated. I'm not sure how those came about, but we incorporated those into that notice of decision because it was, and my memory doesn't tell me how the planning board became knowledgeable of that, is my
I'm
point.
trying to remember which one you were talking about.
Was it the sheds? No?
It's the mulching area.
But
Oh,
the,
yeah,
Oh,
the Boulder, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
but the requested use is very similar to what was there in the past.
They have no
Right.
issue.
I wouldn't stir
I
up
don't
a
know.
bee's nest for a reason, you know?
Yeah,
Well-
It's just reusing the building for the same purpose and a slight modification of one building. The other building's gonna be maintained residential
You
use.
already have to cut this off at 111.
Yeah.
And it's a large cut, double entrance.
It's possible a traffic study was done on that property before. That cafe, the last owner, that
Mhm.
wasn't that long ago,
No, they they closed doors November of 22.
November of 22.
But I would think Jim, the CEO of Arundel, would be bringing up any DOT issues as far as the front of the building, right?
Mm,
Where it's Arundel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that clear?
So-
Yeah, well, I mean, it's information. I've never done this before, so it's all very helpful.
Look up the zoning rules online. That's great reading.
Wow.
I find it interesting. I said, why this became rural as far as in the eyes of Arundel, because I've got a credit union to my left and a doggy daycare across the street. So I don't quite understand why that was changed. But if I wanted to try to change that from rural back to commercial in Arundel's eyes, that could take 2 years. That could take a long time.
Yeah.
That's why you gotta keep that use.
Right.
You gotta keep that the way it
Across the
is.
street, just down is a gravel pit, then there's.
Down Troutbrook Point.
Oh, yeah. The wedding venue up the road, which I know is Lyman, but I mean, this is seriously.
Fluvia's, Park.
Yes, there are houses speckled in, but my
But
goodness.
Each town has its own zoning. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, correlation there among the towns or between the towns.
Yeah, it's just you're behind the cafe and you guys are calling this commercial and they're calling it rural. Why they just changed this recently though, and I'm not sure
Might
why.
have been a reason, but we're not.
Yeah.
Someone made a petition that. There are farms.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're coming from
Yeah,
Bennington,
Kimball
there's a
Farm
lot of
to the left.
farmland
Yeah.
On that side of the road, so that's probably why.
I don't know.
You're sort of an unusual property because it's right on the line there, so
Right.
you're gonna have.
And
to
multi-use, because
satisfy
there's that
requirements
residential
for the
house
whole
too.
town, so that is gonna make it more difficult for you, I would think.
I love it.
It's your
That's
money,
good.
so you
Go
have to
for it.
decide how much you want to spend on this. I mean, but
Right.
I think the planning board would like to help you as long as we can follow the rules.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that.
So next step, application. And again, getting back to Arundel to get more clarification of what they consider. to be-
Now, if I had the application all filled out and handed that to you tonight, would that have sped that up at all?
No.
No, it would be-
No.
no,
Okay, because I think I have it. It's just not fully filled.
it would be on the next agenda anyway.
Okay. Okay. And do I have to do anything else this evening?
Not that I can think of.
Do I stay for the whole meeting or am I free to go?
You're not
Only
bound
if
by
you're
to be
welcome to.
entertained.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Hope this works for you.
For your time. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is Harper Residential Subdivision down on Kenny Funk Road. Discussion of the requirements for the roads and subdivision. Mr. Martin, I believe it is?
Yes.
Thank you for your patience.
No worries. So a little update from, Joe Martin with Sightlines. A little update from the last meeting, which was many months ago now, but the owner was working on acquiring the other half of the right-of-way of the abandoned section of Old Kennebunk Road, and he has done that now. So he has full rights over that area to be able to upgrade that road as he sees fit. But with that, before we kind of move forward with the full design of the subdivision and come before you guys for preliminary, there was a comment made at the last meeting from somebody on the board, I don't recall who, about the requirements for the subdivision road and whether this was required to be paved. And I didn't have the materials with me at the time. I think I said I thought it would be gravel, and there's some discussion on that. So I just wanted some clarification from that. I reached out to the assistant, and she recommended that I come here to talk it over with you. I did bring the street acceptance design and the construction standards ordinance, which I'm sure all you guys have, and I think the roads we're looking to build out there would classify as private street, non-exempt private ways. We have 2 private ways that are both serving, well, total combined, it's 9 lots. So it's split up between, I don't remember the exact breakdown, but it's 4 and 5, or I think that's right. So they're within the 2 to 10 lots. And that, if you look at table 2.3, if you look at bituminous pavement, it says apron at intersection with a paved road only, which is more than reasonable, and he's willing to do for that.
You're not, I mean, maybe this isn't relevant.
Yep.
Let me just ask, it sounds like what the owner is trying to do is get authorization to move forward and basically prepare the lots and then allow the lots to be sold for someone else to build those.
That's correct. He might save 1 lot for himself or his family, but yes, the intent is the lots will be sold separately from. He's not a home builder. He's not going to build spec houses on these.
Right.
He's just going to build the roads and then have the lots for sale.
The only thing I have some comments here on that, but I would point out that if there were a chance for the town accepting these roads as town roads, they would have to be paved.
Yep.
Personally, I live on a 10-house subdivision that is off of Route 35. I would say that, just based on my personal experience, the town isn't going to touch the road after it's done, in my opinion. I was very fortunate that our road was accepted by the Board of Select Persons at that time. And I don't know if the Select Board is even considering accepting new roads or not because of the expense of then plowing them and adding them to the plowing contract and all that stuff. But I would also state that the town hasn't done any work on our road since it was accepted in 2005 or 6. So whatever the subdivision prepares for the roads is probably what the potential owners are going to have for the rest of their time on that, in that property. And that's why, and I think we need to discuss this a little bit, but that's why personally I would always be pushing, if possible, to get the roads paved in the first place. So that and just like having underground utilities,
Yep.
it eliminates potential issues in the future. If the subdivision roads are prepared to town standards, the owners of those properties have basically a decent road, even if they might have to hire a contractor to plow them, during the winter and stuff like that at a later time. But if it's just basically a plain, a road to these non-paved standards, then there's going to be I would suggest there's going to be continued maintenance on those roads in the future, which has to be paid for by a homeowners association or somebody.
Yeah, generally, and so we do a lot with not a lot, but a lot with small kind of rural subdivisions where you have 3 to 5 house lots, and
Right.
generally it's with a gravel road. You're probably looking at, if you're a good HOA or road maintenance association, you do that every 3 to 5 years. You have a grader come in, spread some gravel, smooth it out.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they can go, 8 to 10 years. That's when the roads start to be pretty rough there. But there will be an HOA part of this because due to the amount of impervious area, this requires a DP permit, or requires stormwater treatment systems. So the HOA is going to maintain those, but then also maintain the road as part of
I
it.
think somewhere in the requirements, I don't have a reference right now, but I believe there's a requirement for the applicant to submit paperwork for an HOA.
Yes, yep, and that he has a draft of that with the maintenance requirements, and then it also has some covenants as part of that. That would be
Can I
instituted
just
with.
point one section of table 2.3? It says, you had that too, I assume.
Yep.
It says 2.3, private way construction standards. And then it says, all private ways serving 2 lots or units or more and created after the date of this ordinance, okay, shall be constructed to the appropriate standard in table 2.3. And then there's something I just noticed today. The rest of that sentence, it says, based on the maximum number of minimum sized lots or units that can be subdivided on the parcel. And I looked at the documentation that I think you submitted previously, and I think you have 59 acres in this property. And I believe that is a, let's see, general purpose area, so that would be 5. So in theory, you could put 11 lots on there.
But there's 2 roads too.
Yeah, but it says you're, and the way I'm reading it, what you're, it's not the number of roads, it's just the standard, the base gravel standard that we're talking about here, I think. But what I'm saying is you might, if you wanted to read it one way, you could say, well, the applicant has room there for 11 lots, so therefore they'd have to pave the road. That's one way to read it. I don't know whether that's a good way to read it or not.
Yeah, I mean, typically the road standards are dependent on how many lots are served by a road.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just reading what it says here.
Yep.
And I gave you my prior, that's not a bias, but I would say a preference that if it were possible to have the road paved at the beginning so that any homeowners would have a decent road to operate on.
And I'll say too, I did look at some recent prices for pavement from DOT, and then I also looked at a couple of the bid prices. So there's about 3,800 to 4,000 feet of linear feet of road that we'll be putting in. So to pave that is about $250,000.
The thing is that's your concern. That's not
No,
ours.
I understand that.
Just-
It's a question of a requirement versus a request.
One of the things I personally remember on the initial, and then when we did the site walk, which we had a phenomenal public turnout, is we were concerned about, due to the topography and the wetlands involved, we were saying that it was to be paved with curbing and storm drainage so that it could be diverted away from the streams. And that is what I remember from the meetings and the site walks. People were very concerned because you're going right between the stream and they didn't want runoff to go into the river. So it was paved, curbing, and storm drains to divert it away from dumping into the stream.
So the way that this project will be set up is that it has to meet DP requirements, which require 75% of the impervious area from the road to be directed to a treatment method before it's discharged to the offsite.
Disperse.
Yeah. And with that, part of the Lyman ordinance, it's not part of DEP requirements, is that you can't significantly increase the peak rate of stormwater discharging off the site. In this area, we're going to meet that, but it's not as a big concern because there's not any down gradient properties that will be directly impacted because this is, you guys know it's woods forever back there. But we can only control what we control on our site. So we have done some preliminary stormwater design. We will be directing 75% of the road to either a stormwater buffer or a stormwater basin that will collect that, treat it, and then discharge it off-site. Curbing and all that isn't really required in this instance. There'll be swales on the road. There'll be some cross culverts to get water to where it needs to be. But it will be all designed not to adversely impact any offsite properties.
Kevin, did you have some concerns about the topography as well?
Yeah, without having a full plan profile go by.
Yep.
Just based on these proposed contours that are thrown out there. I have some concerns about
No, I'm good.
road grades.
It's just,
and dirt road grades in particular. And I personally live on a dirt road at the moment, and it's a nightmare to maintain. And I don't believe we have any hillsides that are going to match up with these, and it's already bad enough. So I have serious concerns about just road layout and design in a gravel sense versus pavement. And also, going back to the planning, I saw the main planning review,
Mhm.
and the suggestion that these roads be connected for emergency vehicles, especially in the wintertime. That's, I'd like to see a revised layout with a connection point between them.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Mr.
Yep,
Moderator.
go ahead.
Did you get a copy of Lee J. Feldman's May 6th?
Did I send you those?
No.
I thought I
Okay,
sent you those.
that's.
So the major reason we're not connecting, we have two separate roads, is to limit the environmental impact of this project. So we've got a vernal pool.
One's from Hannah.
Okay. We've got a vernal pool right in the middle there between the two roads.
Mhm.
We've got turtle habitat. I believe it's Blanding's turtle, I believe, which when we first started this project, we went back and forth with IFNW. And we are implementing a number of their recommendations into this project. We do meet all the requirements for fire and emergency thing. We're providing adequate turnarounds at the end.
Goodwin's Mills ladder truck goes down to either one of these hammerheads at those slopes. I don't see that being very.
I'd have to check I don't have the plan of profile with me. I don't think any slopes exceed 7 or 8% at max. Yeah, I mean, think too, ADA is 5%. So, a sidewalk that has to meet ADA is 5% for wheelchair. So, 8% isn't a significant slope. And, we are designing this all in conformance with the ordinance. My main question was just about the requirements of the town ordinance.
So along those lines, I'm sorry you didn't get a copy of Lee J. Feldman's overview in advance. But on the second page here, in paragraph that begins attached is the preliminary application.
Is this the one dated 15th or the?
One dated the 6th of this month.
Okay.
And in that paragraph attaches the preliminary application. He writes, as previously noted, as I read the ordinance, the roadways would fall under the classification of exempt and non-exempt 2 to 10 lots or dwelling units, which do not require pavement. That's in your point of view, other than apron at the intersection. But other things that Kevin was alluding to was, as you see there, based on communication, 3 items need to occur once this application appears in front of the board. Determine if the application is complete for the purpose of acting on the preliminary application. Deciding what level of construction the roadways need to be paved or gravel. And there is nothing in the communication which indicates any discussion occurring within the Alfred Planning Board. Applicant may want to address this. Well, I'll address that in a moment as well. As I review this application, one area of concern I have is the length of the dead end road proposed. On both proposed roads, I might consider an internal crossroad connecting the 2 drives. This would assist in emergency service access throughout the subdivision. And with respect to us working with Alfred, way back when we had the sidewalk, I know there was discussion of sort of a memorandum of understanding between the 2 towns' select boards with respect to emergency services, because the Alfred Fire Department is like right up the road
Right.
there. And also plowing that particular section of Kennebunk Road. So I think that's something that both select boards have to address.
And one thing too, that when I talked with the road commissioner for Alfred, the one concern that he had was about, so right now when they plow that, they push it right to the end, where the gate, I don't know if the gate's still there or not, but,
Yeah.
But
and he was asking for a place to push the snow. So I don't think it's shown on the plans, but we were planning to provide some place off the side of the road that they'd be able to push that, once they get to the end of the paved section and then it turns into a private road, they'd be able to push the snow off. And then from that point, the HOA or the applicant would be responsible for paving after that. So I did reach out to them back when we came back to the board a few months ago. I also reached out to the code enforcement officer, and I did not hear. Did I hear back from him? Either way, there was not discussion or request for me to come before them, the Alfred Planning Board. So.
Now, if you're pushing the snow past pavement, which you've modified the entrance, which used to be after the gate and then kind of angled off. Now it looks like you've come in by the main property and kind of S-turn past where the gate was. If they're dumping snow, it's gonna have to be on one of the properties, either 6 or 1, most likely 6. That's a downhill slope to the stream. How are you gonna prevent any toxins or runoff, salt and all that getting into the stream if they're pushing it that way? Because you can't push it across the street because that's private property.
So I'm not sure which plan you have. So, because we have modified the plan since they were able to acquire that other half of the right of way.
This is. Okay, that's been,
July of 22.
that's when I got July of 22. Okay. That is too many going on here.
I know what you mean.
Okay. So they'd be pushing it into 7.
So this is the end of the paved road right here.
Oh.
So he's acquired the other half of this right away for what was is the abandoned dirt road section.
Mhm.
So he's going to be upgrading from here to Lyman private way standards, and then coming off here with a new private way that will serve these lots. So the end of the paved road is here. Most likely, there'll be a little area in the front of this property that will probably just literally just be some gravel area that they'll be able to push snow onto.
Because you got existing houses on lot 1, don't you?
Yes. Yeah, and that's currently the applicant. That's where the applicant that's where the applicant currently lives. And I'll say too, just you had a question about the stream. Kind of an odd thing about this property, which again, I don't get, because I think if you walked out there like I did and you walked down that, you'd say, I don't know what changed, but it's delineated from here, I think, to here is a stream, and then the stream stops and it starts back up down here. And in between it's a swale because it doesn't have a defined channel.
Yeah.
So it's classified as a stream, but the quote unquote stream starts kind of down past here. And if you walk down there, you can see it really gets into a defined channel as it works its way out to connect to the stream coming over. So you'll see here, again, this is not a fully developed plan, but like we have a stormwater buffer here. There's a pond here, or not stormwater basin. Pond holds water, basin doesn't. Basin here, basin here, basin here, and then a basin up here as well. And they're smaller in nature just because the way this property is configured, there's a lot of up and down. So it's hard to collect it all and bring it to one area. So that's why we kind of have all these broken up smaller sections over there. And we're still trying to work through that to get to the numbers we want to get to, but we think we're there at the treatment requirements. I'll say one thing we did pay attention to was one of the requirements of the private way standards is the maximum slope within, I think it's 50 feet of a intersection. I think it's 5%. So we have designed the roads to maintain that requirement. And the applicant is aware that this can never be accepted as a road, public road. Well, I mean, one thing too, just to speak about this project is, I don't think this would be an area that the town would want to take over that, because they'd have to maintain it, you know, and they'd have to work even more of a memorandum of agreement with the town of Alfred to plow it and all that stuff.
No, I think the regulations with respect to street acceptance were set at such a high bar that would be a rather rare instance
Yep.
that the town would consider
Yep.
taking it for a private way.
And
I think was the intent.
this is again not for this project, but if the board is going to be looking at this in the future of their standards from a design perspective and from a cost perspective, which I know the cost is not relative to you, but is important to the feasibility of projects, is the low density of this area, which I think minimum lot size is 5 acres, to require a paved road with that, just to build the, so what you think is, you know, your frontage that you require for the road, and you think, all right, per linear foot, how much does that road cost me to build? And with a paved road, I can't remember what the minimum frontage there, 150 feet. You're probably looking at $75,000 per lot for cost. So you got to think about how much can you sell these for. And I'm not sure, I'm not a realtor, I don't know the alignment thing. So, you know, if you want to move towards the paved road section, my recommendation, you guys don't have to follow it at all, would be to potentially increase density or minimize lot frontages. You know, we see that we do a lot of work in the Brunswick area, and they recently went through and got rid of, for the most part, except for very specific instances, you can't do gravel roads anymore, but they allowed you to increase densities in some instances because they were having the same kind of thing where they couldn't make the feasibility of the project move forward, and then all residential subdivisions in there kind of died for a little bit. So
One of the things you probably should look at and consider is with the private gravel road, you are going to, particularly at its location, you are going to greatly diminish its potential market appeal, so that the houses that you're looking to sell and build, those are going to be at a much lower price point than if you could advertise at a private, you know, paved gravel road and all that. So you'd be going from a house at this point to marketability at this point. And you're potentially looking at several $100,000 difference between private gravel paved.
Yep.
And
one thing I could talk with, you know, about with the applicant, and I don't know the cost ramifications. I do know a lot of subdivisions I've worked with have gone back and reclaimed the road. You know, they put, which is, you know, made from crushed pavement, all that stuff, and it stitches the road together a lot better. I know at least 3 subdivisions that we did that we designed as gravel that after so many years, the HOA went back and had it reclaimed. So if the board is acceptable to that alternative, we can look at it. You know, it's not laid out in the requirements, but you know, if I assume the town would be okay with us providing more than's required for base gravels or whatever. So.
Well, just my take on this. I do believe the ordinance as it stands right now would not require paving.
Yeah.
Mr. Feldman is quite correct on that. But again, alluding to what Kelly was saying, I would think that these homes are going to be a little bit on the high-end side. And just my own projection here, if I was going to invest in that kind of money into building a home at this location, paved would be more attractive than gravel.
Mhm.
That's, my amateurish take on it.
You're looking at a $500,000 home versus a $750,000 to $900,000 home.
Also,
And 500,000 is a ranch.
Yeah, it's a starter home now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But that's the gravel, that's what you're looking at.
That's it.
going back to what John pointed out, the statement at the bottom of the chart, there's a potential that our density is going to change. I mean, the state is forcing towns and cities to increase density. So is there a possibility, I'm not quite clear on the rules on subdivision, if these lots can be split again, now you're going over 10 houses.
We could, I could talk with the owner. I don't think you've had a problem. I think he's happy with the density of this project. Just put a condition on the subdivision plan that these cannot be further divided without returning back to the plan board, which may be a requirement, which may be already in your ordinance already. And if somebody wants to subdivide it and create that 10th lot, now they got to pave it and bring it up to
I
private
think
street standards.
it says that you have to figure based on the minimum lot size, the maximum number of lots you could put on that parcel. So if it's 59 acres, that's 11 lots. And that's
Does
standard you go by for the street ordinance and everything else.
Lyman, again, I haven't looked at that ordinance. Do you guys subtract out wetlands and, so it's nothing, it's just straight acreage?
And then we said maximum 11 lots,
11 lots, and which means it have to be a paved road.
11 lots, and then you got to also take into consideration LDL 2003, those 11 lots could equal 33 units.
We could put a condition that single-family homes only would be allowed on the.
Yeah, but we may not have a choice on
I
that.
know, yeah.
Well,
No, it doesn't supersede private restrictions. We've come across that many times. So if you have
So
HOA.
state law would not supersede?
there's a part of that language, 2003, that says this is not intended to supersede any. The only reason I know that is I live in a subdivision and we have a requirement of single family only. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that had questions about that. And it was like, no, if you have a private HOA with its own requirements, I guess technically someone could come in and try to get that, but the HOA could sue them and they would, it's right in the covenant, so they'd win immediately.
Private, couldn't you put on ADU on that, on each lot?
That's what I was saying,
Yes.
from 11 to
Building
33,
dwelling.
actually probably
I'm not saying it would, but
Yep.
I'm just saying it's possible.
I don't know that.
I mean,
answer.
that's where the push seems to be, and I don't know whether it's gonna, the state is pushing for more density, no question about it. But it's been going on and on and on, and I know the ordinance review committee is looking at this, the comprehensive plan committee is waiting for some more data, et cetera, but the definite push is for higher density.
Yep.
And the only thing that's keeping us away from that to some extent is that the town has no public water or sewer.
Yep.
And, the only, obviously, it sounds like the applicant, and I don't blame this applicant at all, I'm not even saying that, wants to do this at the least expense. And the only question would be, is this, and I wish this ordinance was, this was a little clearer, but it does say, from your perspective, maybe unfortunately, it says based on the maximum number of minimum size lots or units that can be subdivided on the parcel. So the way I would read it is that you conceivably could put 11 units on this particular parcel, which then would push you into paving.
I guess I would just defer back to the
Yeah.
determination from the Southern Maine
Yeah.
planning.
even with the 9, that's potentially 18,
With the dwelling.
Well,
if each one puts an ADU on.
I know, but then we're sort of into conjecture, I guess, but,
And what is possible?
yeah. I don't know, again, I told you my personal, but that's a personal preference. And I know that the board has to follow the ordinance as written, but like it or not, the ordinance has some words in it which would appear
Mhm.
to force this into, possibility of 11 units, since it's a 59 acre parcel.
The other things. I
Now,
don't
maybe
wanna
the
set
applicant could
precedents.
reduce that to 54 acres or something. And then, I mean, I don't know, it's possible both ways. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm just saying that just seems like it's not as clear as it could be. And just depends, I guess, on how you want to read this, but it seems a little vague in the sense of, you've got this parcel.
Yep.
And it says you could conceivably put on there 11 lots, and that would push you into the paving area, but you're only putting 10 lots on, so that would be non-paving. So, you know, what do we do here? That's my question.
I mean, I think, you know, and I'm not a planner, I don't, you know, write ordinances, but the typical reason for requiring paving or not requiring paving is the number of lots that are served off a road. I don't know the language that you read. I mean, it's right in there. I don't know what's intended by that. I don't know if that supersedes the 2 to 10 dwelling units, which is kind of the reason that, you know, I asked for an opinion, because when I read this, from my eyes, it's black and white that it's not required. And the reason we want that defined, and this is not, I don't like doing this because it's not a threat or anything whatsoever, but if paving is required, I don't know if this project is feasible. It's not an instance of saying like, oh, we don't want to pave it because we want to make as much money as possible. If you have to pave it, it may drive that per lot price up to 100,000, and then you got to sell those for, you know, 150 a piece, which I don't know if you could.
Yeah.
So it's not that's kind of why I want to get that defined now before we move into the kind
I
of the
think
preliminary
you're
final
right
design.
on the money there. I mean, right on the target. You should get it defined ahead of time, so there's no issues later on.
Because we don't want to, you know, come before you for preliminary and then, you know, you guys demand it at that point. We want to make sure we know the requirements up front.
Was there any consideration to do a cluster subdivision to reduce the length of the road and possibly eliminate the long roadway up top, since those lots are kind of yucky?
We did look at it. The applicant wanted kind of the more rural feel to this without the kind of condensed lots.
That's another option. I mean, you could easily get 10 smaller lots on the lower section there, served by one road. Would definitely reduce, eliminate that long road up there just to get those couple of back lots that are in the middle of Colorado Brook and a bunch of wetlands.
And
It's just an option.
that'll all be common land, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be like similar to the Brock Road.
Right.
You have all the lots on the lower section. Just a negative.
I have to retreat a little bit in what I said before. Again, as I now reread and reconsider the language that Don's pointed out, it seems like the acreage could be such, as Bill mentioned, divided up into 5-acre parcels. We're talking about 11 now, and therefore pavement would be a requirement.
So I guess I would request, my request to you would be to bring that back to the Southern Maine with a request if that changes his determination on that.
If he's still there, J. Feldman is moving on to another position, so someone else maybe haven't had a bone who's looked at this before would be the person to ask.
Yep.
On that. Would that be
Yeah,
satisfactory?
the only other thought would be if we can't get a resolution or a recommend, of course, remember, Southern Maine is only giving us a
Advisory.
recommendation.
Guidance, and we are the authority.
The other possibility would be to, get a readout from Southern Maine, get their opinion, and then submit that information to the town attorney and say, hey, maybe this, again, this is an ordinance, it's not a standard. I mean, it's not like the subdivision standards, which the planning board, according to the way it's written, can modify. This has to go to the voters. And so it has become a more complicated process due to our revised our new charter that went into effect about a year ago or something, 1st of July.
Yep.
So it takes a town vote, which is a little more difficult to get to voters. So, I mean, if there's any question, I personally certainly don't want the town to get sued by anybody, which doesn't help anybody, just enriches, no offense to thousands of lawyers watching, but, it just raises
No.
legal fees, which doesn't help.
Benefits
anybody.
nobody.
You know,
Yep.
better we could come to an agreement that, but this wording is not as exact as it could be.
No, and I mean, it's, as you guys know, ordinances are full of contradictions. I mean,
Yeah.
not just this town, so, that's why it's, best from from my standpoint to get a determination either, or, if you want to take it to, what's a state place that can provide recommendations?
Oh, MMA?
Yeah,
Well, trouble with MMA is,
Advisory as well.
it's very, it's just, I mean, they very obviously, they're advisory only.
Yep.
And, it's a little, I mean, they're
Yep.
good, but they're just advisory.
yep, understood.
There's my 2 cents.
I want to reach back into Don and Joe's memory.
Uh-oh.
And Cecile, a few years prior, did we not go out similar to when they were going to subdivide a parcel for a family member? And walk that? Prior to the house, they had bought it.
Oh, yeah, it was one.
I don't know if that ever happened or not.
We did have a case of a subdivision, a lot in a subdivision that was split.
No, this was on this property.
Oh, and this.
Oh, I don't know.
Because
about
we were
this.
concerned, because part of it was also going to be on the Alfred side. And we were like,
Yeah, we did something with that. I do remember that.
Is up in this vicinity?
it was the abutter.
Oh, maybe. so.
Oh, there's a big piece of land on the backside of it. that
No, this
goes-
is on the road frontage. 'Cause I remember walking the stone wall and going, here's the flag, here's the flag. We walked out into the field.
Whatever happened with that?
I don't know, because if that was split, it was part of this, then we go from 9 to 10 automatically. Because it was within 5 years.
Well, remember this says 2 to 10 here. This is 2 to 10.
I'm like, wait a minute, I remembered us doing a site walk out there
Yeah.
for a split. It was
So
like
one,
10
I mean,
acres.
I think what you're recalling, so there's on the plan where you see the existing house there at the end of a road.
Yeah.
That is, which is gonna be a little tricky here. That's part of another subdivision. So when we come before you, it'll be 2 separate applications, but there are gonna be 2 subdivisions. One, the new subdivision for the new lot, and there'll be a subdivision amendment with requesting an easement through that house lot on the road to get to the back rear land.
Oh, you mean Brook Lane, were you showing?
Yes,
That part's got to go through that?
yes, which he owns. That's part of his property.
Yeah.
But that his lot is part of another subdivision. So the plans you have aren't fully up to date. So there'll be a separate subdivision amendment plan for his lot. And then there'll also be the subdivision plan for the Harper subdivision.
Wow. So if that, I'm not saying it wouldn't be, but if that separate application wasn't approved, it would give a problem for this one.
Yeah, I mean, well, probably the way we'd set it up is we'd have that one go for, from a approval standpoint, have that one. I mean, they'll be in tandem, but when you vote on them, that amendment would be occurring first.
Wow.
Seems to think, dude, Kevin?
Oh, I just want to circle back to the road
Please.
situation.
Mhm.
Do we want to get an opinion from the road commissioner and the fire chief?
Yeah.
My personal opinion is we would get from the Alfred Road Commissioner and Alfred Fire Department, as they're going to be most likely the ones that are going to service that subdivision regardless, because I don't see our trucks going all the way up Alfred Road, cutting across and then coming down. And the municipality has abandoned old North Road, Old Kennebunk Road. So they're not going to go up through the gates on an unimproved road.
Not necessarily. If it's a cardiac call, both Goodwin's Mills and Alfred will respond. For that area of town, they both will send.
Right, but Alfred is so much closer because it's right at the red light.
But that's how it works. Because I've experienced that myself.
I don't mean to multiply things here, but it would seem like having both
Yeah.
town road commissioners, both chiefs weighing in on this would be wise.
Most
And
definitely.
referring it back to Southern Maine and whether or not the with.
Or
still
whoever's there. Yeah.
Whoever, and we would point out that the language in 2.3, how should that be interpreted? As, it says, again, size lots or units that can be subdivided on the parcel. Again, 59 acres. So maybe referring it to Southern Maine, to
I
the
get-
attention of the J and to the attention of Hannibal.
And I would ask too, and I can reach out to you with an email too, is if it's taken strictly of, acreages to lots,
Right.
if that can be further restricted based on a restriction on the subdivision plan. You just say, no ADUs, no further lot divisions. This is it until the end of time.
Now, the point you made before about the ADU law of 2003, existing HOA covenants preventing ADUs, that's exempted.
I don't know, but the ADUs, what I was talking about is the how you're by law allowed 4 units. You can put a quadplex on your thing. That was what more I was referencing. The ADU, I'd have to read it again. I didn't read it in that light. But it depends if the HOA, depending how it's written, if it restricts it to single family only.
3 years down the road, neighbors don't get along, they dissolve the HOA.
Well, they'd have to come back to you for that.
It's, I think, more matter too, Kelly. What is the HOA covenant? Where does that compare to state law? And state law would supersede.
Right.
What happened with the one that we shared with the other municipality, that was 3 phases. Phase 3 didn't go through, and they just said, HOA's done, we've dissolved it. This part of the situation is null and void.
About during which road?
I didn't say that.
They never got their fire
Cistern.
cistern.
Yeah, and that's why, some of those things you would put that not in the HOA docs, you put that right on the subdivision plan. So it couldn't be changed by the HOA. It had to be changed by coming before the planning board.
So just to clarify my mind, it sounds like, Joe, you got the course of action there though. Obviously, from your perspective, it seems like the smartest thing we got to do, or the best thing to do, is to get these questions resolved now,
Mhm.
so that you and the applicant don't spend any more time or money on this until you get these resolved, and then enable you hopefully to go forward with either what you've got now or some sort of a modification.
Yep.
So hopefully know what your estimated costs are before you proceed.
Yep.
Which is what is a key driver here, I think.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, and we don't want to delay this.
No.
It's been going on for a long time.
And it's not your fault. It's going. It's
No, I know,
it's been
but
a
I'm
long
saying
process.
You
Yeah.
want to get going, I'm sure. The applicant wants to get going. So
Yep.
maybe if we get this resolved as quickly as possible, that'd be your best interest.
Yep.
Probably.
I think Southern Maine's pretty quick at responding based on my experience.
So some of these lots have restrictions, right, because of the wetlands, and
Yes.
if you can justify, and that these lots could not be split, certain lots cannot be split because because of the restrictions there. And you can come up with a number below the
Yep.
11, then would that qualify? Like, I don't think a state law would ever supersede building on wetlands. Right? They would never allow that.
Are you-
So
Well, I
this-
say
This law can't be
They
split
moved the
because.
swamp from Biddeford to Sanford so they could build the Home Depot gold. So
Right. but there was
don't
no-
tell me you can't do
No
that.
judge said it was okay, they just did it, which is
Jeez.
not right.
I always say you can always build on a wetland. It's just how much you want to pay.
Okay,
Exactly.
all right. So, okay, forget that idea. Yeah.
I've seen when they said,
That's
oh,
just
you
a
can't
thought.
build
I
a
thought maybe
boathouse.
That
No,
would be one option for you,
actually, we're 6
Wow.
are.
So as a plan of action, throw this once again back to Southern Maine, with emphasis on the language interpretation of 2.3.
Yep.
Provide copies of the most recent proposal for the roads to our road commissioner, the Alpha Road Commissioner, and both the respective fire chiefs for their input. And discuss this may hopefully come to some sort of a resolution at the next meeting. Does that sound?
Yeah, if we can get responses.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, from Southern Maine, I quite agree that they're quite responsive.
And if, you know, if I can get that response from them when they get it, maybe I can, if they have any further comments, maybe I can adjust the plan before we come back before.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a full preliminary plan application,
Mhm.
you know, almost more of a pre-app type meeting.
Sounds good.
Yeah, move it along is what you want to do.
Yep.
Okay with that?
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I wish it were clear.
No,
Thanks, Mr.
I always say all the good land is taken, so we're just building on the rest of it now.
I wish it could just be,
Thank
yeah,
you for
go ahead, do what you want.
Thanks for coming in.
And do we want to pick up the ball in terms of sending copies of these to Tom Croto, Matt DeRose, and their counterparts in Alfred? You okay with that?
Need to know.
Okay,
Right.
and
If not, I'll call you and you can come in and we'll meet and do
Run it down,
and I could draft something
See you later. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Within the next day or so, to Southern Maine, once again, to the attention of BJ Hannah, and emphasizing that how should this be interpreted? Okay? All right. Set the agenda for the next meeting.
That's June 5th.
And we've got the public hearings for the proposed modification for the language of the performance guarantee for subdivisions. We've got the
Moore and Joyce.
Moore and Joyce public hearing. Anything from Mr. Lapointe?
He said he would reach out, but
Okay.
he didn't know that if he would be ready for that this year or not, but just ignore him until he comes back to us.
Okay. Put Harper back on as well.
Yep. And Carrie Ann Johnson that was here.
Ms. Johnson. Anything or anyone else?
No, I just wondered, is anybody, are they making any progress on, mentioning, Rock Road? Anybody been by there lately?
Yeah, they're going right down the road.
Oh, they've actually started to build the interior road?
Yeah, there was a stack of huge culvert pipes. right at the
Okay,
end.
good. No, it's nice to see some of these projects, move along a little.
Mhm.
Because, spend a lot of time on them, you'd like to see them get them done.
Yep.
Yeah, several $100,000 in prelims and planning and everything else, just go. We don't want to see that.
So we're okay on the agenda?
I believe nothing from Ben coming back.
No, that, everything was in today.
Yep.
Getting guidance on the ADUs, and so that's
Yep.
close to being settled.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
also-
very good. Thank you, Kevin. That's kind of great.
Is there anything from the code officer? Does she have anything?
And,
Not at this time.
okay,
Okay.
Questions, points of entry, queries?
She's doing fabulous.
thank you.
She's answering the phone and the emails. Wonderful.
Well, then what do you have to do?
Yeah.
I have my own
Everything else.
phone and email to answer. Somebody doing that side of the room is just great. Let me tell
Sounds
you.
good. Sounds good.
All right, so the Chair will entertain a motion to accept the agenda as proposed.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're set on that. Minutes, everyone get a chance to go through the minutes from the previous meeting?
Yes.
I read them. They were good in my opinion.
Here we go.
I don't need to look.
There's just one thing I thought, and I'm sorry it wasn't clear enough.
Thank
Julie.
you.
Under the subdivision performance guarantee, the last sentence there, the board will consult with the town manager and/or the town treasurer for their input in the wording of the proposed change. I think drop or, I think we're asking
Just
from input from both. That's right.
scribble the or on
You
it.
got it.
I'm good.
Mhm. All right.
And you can- One of you can make a motion as revised by Joe.
So amended.
Any other comments on the minutes?
Nope.
Okay, motion to accept?
It's already done and motioned and seconded and motion to accept as amended and it was seconded.
Who seconded?
I thought you did.
No.
Oh, so we need a second to
I'll second
accept
that.
as amended.
So that's amended. Discussion? All those in favor?
Accepting the amended.
As amended. All right. Very good. And just get this guy
I got
going here.
4 books on Robert's Rules of Order,
Mhm.
from the itty bitty one to the 10th one.
Memorized?
I got the clip notes.
Pretty much.
Awesome.
All right, other stuff here. About the meeting dates. Our second meeting
Oh,
in June is right now set for June 19th. And
Thank you.
that's a federal holiday,
oh, what?
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 Juneteenth.
Is that a federal holiday?
Yeah.
Holy cow. How many days are left that aren't federal holidays?
Some of us don't get holidays. We need a
Okay,
holiday for
so
those
it's a
of us that
holiday. I
don't get
didn't
holidays.
realize it was a holiday.
Anyway, what's been suggested is that we just bump that second meeting in June to the following Wednesday,
26?
26th. That'd be satisfactory. Speaking of Robert's rules, would we need a motion on that?
We would need a motion because it goes beyond our published and scheduled ones.
And the room will be available. on
I have already booked the room for that
Very
day,
good.
just to make sure that you got it if that was your choice.
Chair will entertain a motion to adjust the second meeting date in June from the 19th to the 26th.
So moved.
Second,
Second?
all discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it is. And let's see. Another date change that we could entertain is our first meeting in July is on the 3rd.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that we kind of sparsely attended. So how about bumping that to the 10th? And keeping the second meeting in July on the 17th. How do we feel about that?
I
I'm not
would
around.
not be attending. I already have
I won't either.
commitments.
I need vacation, we'll be
On
away.
the 10th?
Yeah, second Tuesdays are out for me.
Okay.
That's not a Tuesday, that's a
Second Wednesday,
Second
pardon me.
Wednesdays, I'm sorry.
It would give you 4 people. Well, no, Dawn's not gonna be here.
No, I'm not
That's
unless,
right,
there's-
in July. he
unless
will.
somebody else is appointed between now and then.
So that.
Now, here's a question to the board.
Mhm.
Who already has plans for July 3rd that would prevent them from coming? I mean, our audience, you have plans?
Yeah, that's.
I always have plans. I also have plans for whatever the one after the 17th is, whatever.
The 20th.
24th?
Yeah, I am not, the same as last year, the last weekend of July. You can hold a meeting. I will not be here.
Understandable.
Mhm. Okay,
You can hold a meeting on the 3rd. I will not be here.
Okay. That's what I asked.
The week of the 4th, I agree. I don't want to do any meetings.
so,
That whole week is family week.
That's a hard one.
so we bump it to the 10th. Kelly, no. Cecile, no.
Don's,
John,
mm,
so,
his term would be
You
up.
and Ken- you and Ken-
3 members can make a quorum.
that would.
Oh, no.
you-
How so? Because you'd have 2 members and an alternate, and you would not have a majority to vote the alternate
Right.
into a full voting member.
Yes.
Unless you did it the
But-
meeting before.
But we have the letter.
We have the letter.
Just voted in the meeting before.
With Don Hurden's impending departure from the planning board, there would be a vacancy for a full voting member. It is the sentiment of the remaining full voting planning board members that the Lyman Select Board appoint Bill Single, presently an alternate on the planning board, to the full voting position.
Boy, I thought I didn't even realize it.
It was mentioned at the last meeting, so I typed it
that's
up.
right.
Yes,
You proposed it. So,
I hope it passes.
So, contingent upon that, let's stick with the 10th and we'll have,
Yeah,
Well, should be
and
able to have a
on the
quorum.
meeting beforehand, if that hasn't been approved, we could then, the meeting beforehand, vote that in the preceding,
True.
or the succeeding meeting, that they'll be brought up to a full voting member.
So are we still looking at the 24th?
No, the 10th.
still looking
The
at the 10th.
10th and the 17th. I have to make
Okay.
sure the room's available for the
I'm
10th.
good.
Okay.
Which I'll do
I'm
tomorrow.
good either way, that's fine.
But let's,
So there'll be, the two meetings for the month will be the 10th and the 17th?
that's right.
Okay, I won't be at the 17th either.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going.
Can I just make a quick comment? I mean, it's not, it doesn't affect me personally, but in the past, upon occasion, we have, the planning board has canceled a meeting. I mean, some of that was during COVID, okay, but
That's right.
there have been a few cases where, I mean, for example, if there wasn't a lot of business or if it was,
Right.
I mean, before Christmas or something, the way the thing fell,
Mhm.
we have very rarely canceled a meeting. So
Right.
I'm just suggesting.
We've
Commenting
canceled
on
but
that.
not moved it.
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
And
last year we had the extra meeting in July because of the same situation. It wasn't a meeting. There was a public hearing and a special,
Oh, we're like a workshop. or
a
something.
workshop
Workshop.
on
Right,
with SMPDC.
That's right.
yeah, but that was
That
not a
was-
meeting, it was public hearing and workshop.
Isn't it also, Robert's rules, I'm not sure about this, but if you're voting for a site plan permit,
Mhm.
that the applicant, if there's only 3 voting members, that the applicant can request to have it voted in a subsequent meeting. That even though 3 is the quorum, that they have the right to
Yeah.
to have a
Request to
voting.
postpone until there was a
Request to
larger
postpone
quorum.
until there are more members.
Where is that position?
Well, I know that's happened at the zoning board of appeals.
Oh,
That's
When
the-
there's only 3 members, that
okay. I don't know that that's.
that
in
the applicant has the right
What
to,
I think.
but I don't know if that applies to the planning board.
I don't know that that's-
Uncertain, I think what would be problematic
Anyway.
is if it was a 2-to-1 vote.
Oh, God, yes.
And therefore, you don't have a majority of.
You don't have the majority voting.
Well, if you
So
have
that
2 to
would-
1, you got a majority, you get a simple majority.
Well, it's
Hence
not the
why you
majority
need
of
an
the
odd
vote.
number.
I know with a select board, if it's 3 people, it cannot be a 2-to-1 vote.
That's right.
It has, in order to pass, it has to be all 3.
I think it's the applicable to us as well, yes.
Is
All
that
those are all
in
yeas.
their accepted order of business?
I believe it is. Yeah. Then there was a situation recently where one person there was only 3 present, 1 recused. And although it was a majority of 2-0, it wouldn't be applicable, you needed to have these.
That's
3
because they
positive
recused
votes.
themselves or abstained.
I think it still applies. I think you need a majority of the
You have to
membership.
have a minimum of 3.
Okay, well, back to
Fatal
it.
vote.
Still want to go for now with the 10th?
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah.
And if, good point, Kelly, that if we need to make an adjustment once again, we'll have the opportunity to do so at the meeting on the 26th of June.
I know I asked, my term runs out next year. I got 1 more
Yeah,
year.
that's right, I'm sorry.
I did ask that question.
Yeah. I checked the book.
And I was told to reapply,
Mm-hmm.
just an email request to be considered was all that they needed.
Okay.
Really? I thought it was,
We had to
well,
fill out
we had to
full
do an
forms.
application,
No,
like a brand new.
I asked
Oh, you're
specifically.
special.
Oh, I thought so.
Yeah.
We all do. Okay, so a motion to move the July 3rd meeting to July 10th.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm recusing myself. I'm not gonna be here. It doesn't affect me, so I don't want to vote on it.
You don't care.
I
you
don't
do
care. I just said I don't think I should vote on it.
You can still
And-
vote. They can count while you got a chance.
No.
And I hope you don't mind if I go through a couple of updates here and there.
Oh, go for it.
One situation came up where a pit off of Old Pump Road had changed hands.
Oh.
And the question I think that arises is, okay, what happens to the escrow account that the previous owner had for reclamation? Does that, I would think that would be returned to that property owner, and the new property owner would have to put up the $5,000. It's a 1,000 per acre for the cells that they open up. Okay, so that is, I think, something that's,
If we have an agreement with them and they sold it, I would think the agreement still stands. It's because it's attached to the property.
right, but I'm saying the money that they put up in escrow for reclamation.
Yeah.
Would that not get returned to them? Because actually it's their dough or no?
Because the vote still stands.
That and
So that would be up to the selling party to collect from the new person ahead of time outside of that,
Right.
I would think.
because they bought not only the property, but the going concern of the property,
Right,
Yeah.
which
Right.
included that, so they bought the assets as well as the liability.
Mhm.
so
So
what if the
it
two
is a
parties are aware of that?
Probably not.
that's not our concern.
Well, it
Well-
is, for reclaiming it. It's the
Now,
town's
if-
concern.
No. You're right as far as the reclaiming goes, but for the way they handle their transaction is their problem, not ours.
Because say we give it back to the seller, the purchaser does not come forward, does their permit to excavate cease?
My
Do they have to
suggestion-
come back to us?
No.
So you're saying that
I
the,
wouldn't know.
the permit carries forward with the property? Therefore, the
The escrow.
escrow
Carry forward.
carries forward.
I think maybe both
I would
parties should
think
be
so.
aware that.
Yeah,
But
that-
escrows are in a name, in a particular,
Yeah,
you just can't change a name on an escrow.
They're in a
account.
particular name in reference to a particular parcel of earth,
Oh, I
to a-
would think for the
to a
town
spot on the
records.
earth.
how's about we ask the town treasurer
Bingo.
about this
Yeah,
one?
right.
that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
And a record of such should be put in the folder with.
I was
the-
gonna dump it on
Very
the
good,
code
yeah.
enforcement
Yeah.
officer.
No, I think that's not true.
And just, maybe a future, I don't know, maybe a communication to the existing pits that if indeed there's a transfer of ownership, could we be made aware of it
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
rather than after the fact?
Well, I would think that's gonna get, the registry of deeds is gonna notify our assessor, so they're gonna know that. But, yeah, I agree.
Let me see. The recent notices of decision were filed over at the county registry. Thank you very much, for taking me over there and showing where that is. Let me see. I did ask the town manager about the Gmail account situation, and the explanation I got was they want to set up a two-step verification process for the Gmail accounts here. But they're encountering some sort of glitch in terms of doing so with is Microsoft 365.
Doesn't
So
surprise me.
there's
A glitch.
yeah, and that's has been the stumbling block on that. So until such time that that can be rectified, I guess we'll stick with I think the three of us did in a separate Gmail account. If you want to do the same, A-okay. If not, we'll stick
Yeah,
with,
well, mine's not a Gmail, it's an Outlook account, but same thing.
There was one other suggestion, I think actually, the town manager mentioned when I was talking about something. Another option, if you're, the only thing, I don't have anything to hide on my emails, but I don't like people going into my private emails or being able to access those, but one suggestion was to copy the assistant, the code enforcement, the planning board, whatever your title is, clerk on all the emails, and then you can say, well, it's, the town's got it,
Mhm.
But I don't know that that's.
If you stop and think about the cost to manage, you're talking $5 a month per email. Doesn't take
account.
very long to burn up $5
But that
You
per
know?
email or per account?
per account, per email account.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Because emails, when we shoot 30 back and forth, we'll get.
No,
36.
it's for that account.
Right.
They pay somewhere between $5 and $6 a month per email account.
Right.
well,
So,
yeah, good idea to CC Julie on everything, which I think we're pretty much doing.
You pretty
I'd say.
much do.
But just to make sure that's a standard practice, whenever there's communication between us, anything business oriented or related, make sure that Julie gets a CC.
That
Well,
does
they
give
could-
you more administrative work in the sense that you've got more emails coming in, but, I don't know, I mean, that was a suggestion I think, the town manager made that apparently that she did in a previous, job, so that the record is on the town account. I mean, when I got a FOA request, I only have one since I've been here on the planning board, and I looked through it and I said, hey, you know, here's what I can find, but I said, if you want me to search everything else, you better give me a charge number. Because I mean, I can't just sit there and spend hours searching. I did a search on my Outlook account, whatever the heck, and I got what I got. But I'm not saying I got, you know, maybe I didn't get everything, I don't know. So I'm just worried about people coming in and saying, oh, you're hiding something. I'm not hiding anything. Why would I hide?
Now, I'm surprised that they
Where you
don't buy,
hide your beer money.
I'm surprised that they don't buy accounts in blocks.
Yep.
You know, I was speaking to someone who works for a corporation that has several thousand emails. And they buy blocks, 10 to 100, 100 to 200, 150. And instead of going, well, I need 3 emails, I need 5 emails. Look at the potential number of municipal employees, including board members, and go, what's it gonna cost us to buy a block of 100 emails?
Just pass that suggestion along.
You know, and it's just,
And I was just gonna say, just putting Julie's email on your email correspondence to me is not enough. I mean, they still, the purpose of having your email account is they have access to the whole account. You could say, well, Julie, you know, every email in my account, I sent, you know, put Julie's email on it and she got it. But I mean, they still need to go. The purpose of the Gmail is to be able to turn over that whole account, then there's nothing to hide. We're not picking through and saying,
Right.
this is the one, this is the one.
Exactly.
We're not separating our personal email.
but
Yeah.
the way business operates, if that's where they want to be able to have access to your account, they must provide that account.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm using my corporate account. I own my domain name, I own all of that.
Right.
It's the most secure one out there. It's more secure than Gmail, Yahoo, all that. To access mine, it takes a court order.
Mhm.
Well,
That's simple.
well, that's,
Sorry, just to circle back
Oh,
to
no.
the gravel pit, I just wanted to say I can handle talking to Jeanette to follow up on the escrow
please.
question.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay,
Awesome.
I can do that, I'll check.
Nice.
Thank you.
Speaking of,
I think, don't you have a list, or there was a list of all the gravel pits
Yeah,
one time, and, you know, way back, the planning board had to re-inspect every 2 years, I think, and that was always an issue, and then the ordinance was changed.
Yep.
We had that section 11 on mineral extraction.
Right.
Which put it down to where I believe the code enforcement
Right.
officer examines or looks at it every 2 years or whatever the
Yeah.
requirements
it
are.
was too.
And the planning board is basically out of it once it's approved.
that's why I thought it might be easier if I connect with Jeanette than you guys having to work that into your schedule.
And would it be much trouble to get copies of that list of all the gravel pits that exist out there?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think it's a spreadsheet.
Okay.
Oh,
If you please.
You got the dirt on them all.
Fun, there's a, speaking of gravel pits.
Thank you, he'll be here all night.
Gravel.
Just to let you know, folks, I got a couple of text messages yesterday that there was a blast down on the southern portion of Old North Berwick Road at 2:20 in the afternoon. And this morning I was going to, before I called one of the pit owners, he called me to say that that blast 2 days ago was not him. It was in an adjacent pit. But he told me that they had intended to do a blast today at 11. So I got the word out to as best as I could to the residents on Old North Road that this was coming. Feedback that I got was it was a particularly percussive explosion. I gave that information to the pit owner in question. I've been in contact with the fellow from DEP who has, I think DEP has the jurisdiction over detonation of explosives for gravel pits and quarries. And hopefully we'll come up with some sort of protocol where more advanced notice, first off, advanced notice is provided, and a greater lead time to make preparations for those who have livestock, those who may have some conditions like PTSD, to be aware of this upcoming blast.
Yeah, the state does have decibel limits for the blasts themselves, as part of the gravel pit regulations. I was hoping to get down there with I have a little sound meter to at least get some readings in the area, but I didn't make it down there.
You know, Kevin and I were discussing before what regulations that we have seen are pretty minimal about the distance from the blast site to property line. I don't think there is a time frame specified, maybe no more than 24 hours in advance. Anyway, we'll see what we can work out there so that this can be addressed to the peace of those in the neighborhood. Let's see, just a quick run through the other things. Did speak to Darren Shaw over at Gorham Sand and Gravel, asking him again to contact George Stewart. I assume that conversation was conducted. Let's see, haven't heard anything more from the Maxons about them being contacted by the Army Corps of Engineers. And again, the last thing that we have there was Lee J. Belvin's suggestion that they hire a landscape architect to possibly design a new grading plan for their location over on Cottage Road. Bridgman's on Barker's Pond Road. Still, they need to get in contact with the CEO about the removal of the deck that they have there. Nothing new from Mr. Martino on his huts suggestion on Brock Road. Still waiting for DEP to tell him whether or not he can build anything there, I believe. And let's see, some more paperwork, I believe, is in process for Mr. Platts and his home business permit there on, was it Oscar Littlefield Road?
West Shore Road.
West Shore, I'm sorry. Okay. And that's just the update on all of those outstanding issues.
One other question, I got a note from the, and I should have written down the number, but which, there was a law that was pending, that was affecting, it was, I believe it did not go through the governor. I'm not saying it wasn't 2003, but it was.
Was that the growth management
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1976.
1976, yeah.
And my assumption, that was one that was not fully funded. Now, I do believe the Ordinance Review Committee and the Comprehensive Plan Committee was going to go ahead with the new directives from that law regardless, which I think is a good idea.
And just got a data dump there, the Ordinance Review Committee. I mean, the Comprehensive Plan Committee got a big data dump, which some members haven't read yet.
A lot of stuff.
But anyway.
But yeah, I don't think it was, because it had a fiscal note, it was one of those that was on the appropriations table. I do not believe it was funded. But again, whether or not the revised requirements, I think, are still effective.
Yeah.
When regulations will come out is years, maybe down the road. But going with the new approach, I think is wise. Yeah. And, I'm sorry, the soapbox routine here, but again, I think here's an instance where the state tells the municipalities to do something.
No money.
And the state constitution says that the state's supposed to pony up 90% of whatever the cost is. So
You just haven't increased your taxes enough to get the money to give back to you.
well, they got a surplus. Anyway, I'm sorry. Anything else, folks?
There's somebody, remember, I know it's on the tip of your tongue, the top of your list, but if someone wants to be the liaison to the Ordinance Review Committee, some planning board member, now wouldn't be a bad time to sort of think about it.
I think we nominate you for life, even though you're
No,
not.
no, I can't if I'm.
Emeritus.
Exactly.
I'm just-
Liaison
I'm
emeritus.
just saying.
Contractor.
I'm just saying.
And they're meeting tomorrow at 6:30, correct?
I don't know, I'm not even keeping track. I mean, I'll go whenever it is. Is it tomorrow?
Yeah,
I think it's tomorrow.
tomorrow, 6:30.
I lost that one. I have it in my book.
Put it in your book, Dawn.
Jeez.
What's that?
Anything else, folks? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
I like Julie's motion. I think we should give her an
Give
occasional.
me an occasional vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Ex officio. Rebecca, thank you very much.
How about-
And
Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.